black is traditional. But if you'd prefer pink, or vermilion, or chartreuse, though you might make me jealous.
No way! You're not sewing buttons in my eyes!
If you're at all a fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, you've likely purchased at least one piece of merchandise, because there are absolutely mountains of it. And if you've ever watched a video similar to this, you've probably heard introductions similar to this one, so I'm just gonna get to the point. Freddy Fazbear, Scott Cawthon. He put bear on mug and sell at Hot Topic. There, you get the picture. Goth culture is dead and it's Freddy Fazbear's fault. A lot of merchandising companies have dipped their toes in putting the famous animatronic bear on retail shelves, as well as selling them on online storefronts. This makes sense when you have an IP as large as Five Nights at Freddy's. With the world we live in, if the people demand a pair of socks where you can shove your foot in Freddy's mouth, then we fucking give it to them. But why does he look so hideous? No, like why on every pair of Freddy Fazbear socks does he look almost completely different? If you're at all involved with the spaces that cover FNAF merch, chances are you've heard that this franchise has a widely varied sense of quality put towards it. This becomes apparent when you put the multitude of standard Freddy Fazbear products next to one another. They're all almost completely different. Why is that even the case to begin with? Just to name a few popular fictional characters, if you take the many Mickey Mouse, Pikachu, or Superman products and put them next to one another, this level of inconsistency is never nearly as prevalent. Sure, there are stylizations and iterations that tend to stick out from the standard, but a large majority of the time a consistent level of inconsistency is present in the merchandise especially created for FNAF. And it's hard to discern if there's ever even a level of stylization that would warrant said inconsistency. You also often see incorrectly cited visuals and fan models / renders / designs used in official franchise works, something that almost never happens with an IP this large. I can understand something like this happening in a brand's infancy, but it still happens quite often to this day, typically in the books oddly enough. How does this even happen? I have a good feeling FNAF lacks an actual style guide, and this is why merchandising and marketing is so incredibly inconsistent. A style guide is a set of guidelines that establish a brand or IP's identity. It'll show iconography such as colors and fonts, and what is explicitly meant to be taken from. Some will even go as far as to represent what is and isn't acceptable for a brand. Take this Yokai Watch style guide, for example, created by Brian Duran. You can see it consists of a ton of different guides on how to represent the brand and its iconic characters. Now, why do I suspect FNAF doesn't have this? We can constantly see FNAF misrepresenting itself in a ton of its media, using improper renders, pairing information incorrectly, using fan models and renders and works, and getting simple details wrong in a ton of its merchandise. If FNAF had a style guide to closely stick to, none of this would even be happening to begin with. And when most merchandising employees and developers don't care enough to go beyond what is asked of them, and they shouldn't really need to, with a franchise that infamously has a ton of accurate recreations and fan arts of its common iconography, you can see quickly why this happens so much. If FNAF doesn't give the initiative for companies it works with to care about brand consistency, then why should the companies care? There's rumors of an infamous render folder that Scott and Striker Entertainment gives to other companies to use as reference for merchandise. And if the Stickerpedia is anything to go by, a lot of these renders are scuffed as fuck. When an IP partners with a company to create merchandise, especially with an IP as new as Five Nights at Freddy's, there's a good chance very few working at the merch company actually knows what that is. Some suits shook hands, and now the new project for the week is to put the scary brown bear on a t-shirt. This is why the aforementioned style guide is incredibly important. It gives those working with the IP a rundown as to what the series is, what it means to both the IP holder and the consumer. This tells them how to properly apply said brand to their design process. And when that's all done effectively, you get products that are in line with what everyone wants, and ergo, money is made. Funny economy work like that. When you don't have one of those newfangled style guide pieces of technology, that's how you get things like tie-dye Freddy action figure. The people at the top don't know why their target demographic, children, give a shit about Five Nights at Freddy's. So with no style guide and direction from the IP holder that can stem from brand inactivity, they just apply whatever generic thing they can think of to the brand that will sell. Bright colors, glowing plastic, and Christmas for some reason. Even if said things go completely against the direction and appeal of the brand. This is almost flipped 180 when the man heading and designing the brand is someone like Daco, a YouTuber and super fan of the franchise that has been glued to it for over a decade by now, and has befriended its creator. Daco actually has a real understanding of why people like Five Nights at Freddy's, and what makes the characters and iconography appealing, because he also likes Five Nights at Freddy's. And to his credit, he is incredibly receptive to fan feedback. Whether or not that fan feedback is injected with a 2-to-1 solution of hostility and water, that's incredibly intuitive and professional of him. It's why someone like Daco is trusted and respected with the license, the type of people Scott probably likes to work with the most, those who actually understand and like the brand past a superficial level, because Scott doesn't have to actually put in the effort to make them care. You can see this with a ton of Hex's releases, deep cuts and references to the series that most companies probably wouldn't bother doing. Their Springtrap plush is actually a really good example of making something actually consistent. A big problem with a lot of Springtrap plushies, especially over the years, has been his coloring. They make him way too bright or like a vomit green when that just isn't his natural shade. He's much darker and lends in this perfect balance of desaturated while also being vibrant and kind of visceral. Hex, by a miracle, managed to actually get Springtrap's shade of green right, and this makes the plush so much more appealing as a result. He doesn't look cheap or tacky, he looks quality. Hex's apparel and pins are especially some of my favorites in their offerings. I love the style of all of this, and they actually managed to make something I would go out and wear in public, which is a big feat for nerdcore apparel, because most of it looks like this shit. There's just so much to offer here, but what is easily Hex's biggest showing is in its line of plushies. Hex originally started as a webcomic created by Daco. This dually had a dubbed motion comic posted to his channel for the first 2 chapters. Hex hasn't seen a new chapter release in over 2 years due to the artist having to step away from the project, which is a shame. It's seemingly canceled, and this is just a cute original world to have explored. It had a lot of charm to it. I wish we got to see more of it. Hex had been merchandised alongside its release in order to help fund its creation with apparel and plushies. These plushies were especially unique for their gimmick of swapping around their parts. In universe, the characters are little fabric dolls that will end up torn apart and needing to be sewn back together. The magnetic features of them are meant to replicate this without actually damaging the plushie itself. It's a really cute idea. These on release retailed for about 40 USD, a bit up there, but for the quality and the gimmick, it's far from an unfair price by any means. Later on, Daco had expressed interest in taking the brand beyond its original comic run, working with new IP, namely FNAF, as he is primarily a FNAF content creator. He expressed interest in applying Hex's gimmick to FNAF as their animatronics. Taking them apart and swapping them around works really well with the product's gimmick. Envisioning an initial set of 6 plushies to be released, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Fredbear, and Spring Bonnie, as if these plushies were created during the era of FNAF horror, and some of the first prototypes of plushies to be created by Henry or William, with the iconic Hex sewn button eyes and stylization to make them more simplistic and emblematic of that handmade look. These plushies were some of the best we'd seen for FNAF. The magnet gimmick had some room to grow, but visually these plushies were really cute, and the later cuddly variety got rid of the magnets and really showed that these plushies could still stand on their own as adorable stylization of the FNAF characters. It's cool to get such stark variety from the norm. These were released for about 50 USD, which is a big $10 jump, but they were larger and more detailed than the previous Hex releases, so it's understandable as long as it doesn't get more expensive, right? A lot of Hex plushies have come out since then. Some of them I think look really great. Springtrap, Nightmarian, and the Puppet are beacons of quality. I think Jackie in particular is really adorable. The Fun Times and Glamrocks look amazing as they've done a really good job filling out the roster. We're even gonna get a damn Scrap Wave eventually, which is awesome. We've never had plushies of Scrap Baby, Molten Freddy, or Scrap Trap before, let alone merch in general for the latter. But as mentioned, Hex continued. They've made more characters, and those characters got more detailed, and one thing leads to another, and hey, so how much was that Jackie plush again? Oh my god! Why is this and the White Tiger plushie $75? I can kind of understand the Mimic because it's a little bit more detailed and really big, but like, what? Look, Hex has had some bumps in the road in terms of design. Some of the plushies look not great, but I think at this point, most of the newer releases look pretty good. I don't know if they look $75 good. I don't know if most of these newer ones even look $67 good. This has been an issue with Hex basically ever since the Toy Wave, which was directly after the aforementioned main 6 plushies were released. They're just really expensive most of the time. And as a plushie connoisseur, I don't get it. I don't get why a lot of these are so expensive. I can maybe get them being 30, 40, hell, 45 for some of these would make sense. I'd even be willing to accept 55 for its most ambitious offerings. But 75? That's more expensive than a AAA video game. I only harp on this point because it's really my only major issue with Hex. Otherwise, most of the time they make pretty good plushies. But just why are they so expensive? I'm not a stranger to plush creation myself. Not only have I been designing and making my own custom plushies since like 2018, I've actually mass-produced a plush myself and sold it back in 2024. The only reason I haven't made another one yet is because I've learned a lot about this process the first time, and I want to perfect my next release. That's not just for my own amusement, it's to better both my profits and the consumers purchasing it. I don't want to charge a ton of money for a plush that is just inexplicably expensive. It gets to a point where people start to ask where the cost is even going. Like, what on the chart makes Jackie $75? I really gotta know. Hex has started to offer more magnetless releases of plushies that help bring the cost down, and this is a good step in the right direction. But why is Jackie, with her whole 2 magnets, $75? It doesn't make any damn sense. What the fuck made Jackie this expensive? Don't even get me started on the $95 mangle. I get it's going for spectacle, but it ain't exactly perfect enough to be charging that much. What sucks the most about this is the price makes these incredibly anti-collector. It's just not worth filling out the whole cast. By all means, I do think it's worth buying your favorite character or two for the plushies, especially the ones that are really good quality, but I could not imagine trying to complete the Hex collection. I'd be in debt before I even got to FNAF 4. Warren James is the company that actually handles the manufacturing of Hex's products, and have claimed to Daco that the prices have gone up due to inflation, tariffs, etc. And I guess I'd be willing to believe them on the increase in price, but something just doesn't seem right here. Plushies of similar quality don't usually cost this much, even without the magnets. Also, the tariff thing shouldn't apply to international customers. Why is anyone besides the US seeing these prices increase like this? I have a particular instance, a specific incident that might justify my confusion and waning suspicion. Okay, this title card is funny, but it's pretty disingenuous, so let me elaborate a bit before we jump to any conclusions. Vivziepop, or Vivian Medrano, is the creator of 2 conceived indie adult cartoons, Hazbin Hotel and Hell of a Boss. These shows have since been picked up by Amazon and get fully funded seasons. The show, as you'd expect, also has mountains and mountains of merchandise that various companies have dipped their toes in, similar to Five Nights at Freddy's. Here's a witness testimony to this fact from my friend Bulbasquirtle. How you doing, buddy? Warren James actually has created a subset brand of merch for Hell of a Boss, this being Stylish Occult. The name is derived from a fictional storefront that is mentioned in the show, and this is a fairly expansive brand, having created apparel, accessories, and toys. I stopped watching Hell of a Boss after the first season, but as far as I can tell, most of this looks to be of fairly high quality. The apparel seems stylish and in line with the tone of the show, as is the quality of the accessories. I actually really like these backpacks, these look great. And the plushies, hey, wait a second. There's a plush of the robotic version of the character Fizzaroli that features magnetic limbs, removable accessories, and specifically shows off the fact that you can swap the parts around, which doesn't really make sense for this character. Did Warren James just take the idea for Hex and slap it on another IP? I can't really prove definitively whether or not the idea for the magnet function in Hex's plushies was Daco or Warren James's idea. However, based on the way Daco has publicly talked about it and the way he conceived it as a tie-in with the comic he was writing, it's looking like he'd come up with the idea and went to Warren James with the pitch. I can't pretend to know what the legal contracts are between them and if they're even allowed to do this, but it feels a little disingenuous to take the gimmick from one of your partner's established brands that is actively exploring working with multiple IP and then slapping it in another storefront because you can use the same assembly lines to make them. It becomes obvious looking at it that this is what happens to a Hex plush when there isn't really anyone giving proper feedback and just saying, it looks good enough at the first prototype. Essential details are littered with printing, the pattern is sloppy and not properly proportioned, and the materials and colors are inconsistent with the character's actual design? How do they fuck this up this badly? It's not like this plush is cheap either, they're selling this for $70 at retail. I already think it's a stretch to be selling a lot of Hex plushies for the prices some of these go for, but this is less magnets, is lower quality, and is being sold for the exact same price. When Warren James is constantly coming back to Daco saying prices are going up or oh, it's just the tariffs, I start to believe them a lot less after seeing this damn monstrosity. I don't think it's bad to sell merchandise of an IP. Hell, I don't think it's even bad to sell a lot of merchandise of an IP. This is how the entertainment industry has operated for some time now. The Ninja Turtles wouldn't even exist if we couldn't sell toys of them, and to see people constantly pro-clutch against the idea of a creator or studio quote-unquote selling out by making merchandise for the IP they either own or have been given the rights to, it just feels like they don't actually understand the problem. The problem being when the merchandise is bad or of low quality. If people want to buy something with their hard-earned money, then they are allowed to do that. It is the basic economics of supply and demand. They wouldn't be making the merchandise if nobody actually wanted it. Look at what happened to Funko when they started making a ton of FNAF merch nobody actually wanted or cared about. That shit ended up in Five Below, or worse, a landfill. When these companies are being disingenuous or at the worst, lying about the products they're making, then that becomes the central problem of this entire conversation. And it's the reason people think the simple act of merchandising is selling out, because they've been burned too many times by the lack of care put into the merchandise, as is common with the capitalistic hellscape we live in. And YouTubers are no stranger to shoving whatever they can greenlight on store shelves, shilling a half-assed biography or a sketchy ad read. I will say I'm not actually accusing Warren James of deliberately stealing from Hex's gimmick. At the end of the day, it's just comparing similarities and having a hunch. I mostly just wanted to bring this up because it's really funny, but it does make light of another good point. When I see the quality of something like this, I start to lament on how many people blame Daco specifically for the quality of Hex's products. Cause guess who faces all the backlash when a Hex product misses the mark? It's not Warren James, it's Daco. That's the risk he bothers to take when he's the face of the brand. He's the middleman between the consumer and the manufacturer. And it becomes abundantly clear to me that the shortcomings of Hex's plushies do not fall as much on Daco, but fall more on Warren James. It feels to me they're a lot more concerned with upping the profit margins on the plushies with inexplicable price hikes and constant blame shifting on said price hikes. It makes sense they do this. The plushies are the main priority of Hex's line. They clearly make the most money off of these compared to anything else on the website. But it makes me wish something could be done about this, or Daco had a little bit more transparency. I just find it hard to believe after seeing this that all of these plushies, as inconsistent as they are price-wise, are actually priced accurately, because it doesn't feel like they are. However, I suppose I should put my money where my mouth is and actually take a look at a sample of what Hex has created, and see if that actually changes any of my points. Maybe the quality really is up to snuff, and I'm just a broke bitch complaining. I don't know, we'll have to see. I want to first say thank you to the folks at Hex/Warren James for reaching out to me a few months ago. I haven't really been approached to any merch companies so closely tied with FNAF, and it's what inspired me to really create this entire video. I honestly was planning this to just be a fun review video, but as I started sitting on it, I felt like there was a lot more to say about Hex and the overall state of FNAF merch that hasn't already been said in a lot of capacity. Here's a bit of a look at the products I've sampled. I know I've highlighted negative aspects in this video, but I actually have a lot of nice things to say about this stuff. First, we have the Springtrap t-shirt. The style of this is awesome. I love how it's supposed to be an actual shirt that would have been worn by the employees working at Fazbear's Fright, or like merch that would have been sold at a gift shop. Well, Springtrap actually being on the shirt itself is a little less believable. He looks very cool on here, and I think that it still works as a piece of in-universe product. 10 out of 10, I love this thing. This is not just my FNAF 3 bias talking, it is my FNAF 3 bias talking, I love that game. Hex Freddy plushie. This is the standard magnet release of the plush, and I do like his design a lot. He's very cute and fluffy, and the stylization offers some nice variety from typical FNAF releases. However, major points are going to be docked for the price. $57 is crazy for this, and the new one I received doesn't even seem to use the better magnets the newer releases come with. I just don't see where this price is justified at all. Plush itself is an 8 out of 10, but I gotta dock it to a 6 for that price. Ugh. Cuddly Chica plushie. I love Chica so much, and this plush is adorable. So fluffy and cute with the beans in her butt to help her sit down. Some details could be a bit better, but for $37, it's not the worst in the world. 8 out of 10, I like this one a lot. Puppet Wire plush. This plush is so cool. I love how it's game accurate, and you can articulate it into so many cool poses. It's just a treat. 47 is a little steep though. Ugh, I hate having dock points for these prices, but I can't ignore it when it's like that. 8 out of 10 it is. The product itself is nearly perfect though. Shadow Bonnie hoodie. While the hoodies on Hex's website are a bit on the pricey side, they are so cool. I love this design. All the embroidery is so neat looking, the glow in the dark is awesome, and the bunny ears are so cute. The hoodie itself is actually really good quality, super tactful and warm, and I think it could withstand a lot of wear. Hoodies are honestly more expensive these days anyway, so I can only knock at Hex so much for this. Plus, the actual quality of the hoodie reflects well on the price. 9 out of 10. I also got this little sticker pack, and I mean, there's not a whole lot to say, it is just stickers, but they are really cool. They glow in the dark too. 8 out of 10. The Collector Mangle plush, and oh man, I did not expect them to send me this one. I gotta say, I liked it way more than I thought I was gonna. Getting to put it together is really neat, and the spectacle of having this cool accurate Mangle display piece is awesome. My biggest issues come from the magnets just not being particularly strong, but it does hold together surprisingly well if it wasn't for the neck. The vinyl material all over this plush infamously holds up poorly over time, so I fear she isn't gonna last forever. And god, that endo head is horrendous. Ew, I don't like him. I hate to say all this, because I feel like with just 1 or 2 more revisions, this could have been a must-buy for any FNAF FNAF fan, but it just isn't quite there for me. Especially for nearly $100, it's just not worth it. If you love Mangle a lot though, I'm sure you will like it. All the goodies it comes with in the stands are nice throw-ins too. But then I have to ask, what makes Jackie only $20 less? It doesn't math! This one is kinda hard to rank. 6.5 out of 10, I guess? I got the entire Bendy collection as well. Here's the Bendy and Boris plushies. I like both these a lot. I think Boris works a bit better in the style, but both are very cute, and the wire functionality works well for the most part. For $35 a piece and $55 together, these are pretty good. 8.5 out of 10. Ink Bendy hoodie. Ooh, I love this thing. The details on it are amazing. I love the little walk cycle film reel on the sleeves. The art is so well done. It's comfy, it's quality, it's 10 out of 10. Must get for any Bendy fan. This is stellar. I love this hoodie so goddamn much. Alice Angel t-shirt. I like this shirt. The art's pretty good and it's comfy. I'm not entirely sure what it's depicting though. Like there's the eyes and the dark halo and the horns, and I'm like, the symbolism's lost on me. I don't know, it looks cool, who cares, 9 out of 10. And lastly, the entire set of Bendy pins, and oh my god, these are awesome. As someone who's starting to get into pin collecting, these are such a treat. All the art is so cute and charming, and these are massive for only being 16 bucks a piece. I've paid nearly the same price for way less, so these are just lovely. Would also recommend these for any Bendy fan, they're great. Bendy's a 10 out of 10, Boris is an 8 out of 10, Alice is a 9 out of 10, the Ink Bendy pin's an 8 out of 10, the Ink Machine's a 9 out of 10, and the Ink Alice is an 8 out of 10. Okay, that was a lot. But after all that, glazing for the most part, I really liked a majority of what I got. What's my final takeaway? If I came across as a bit harsh with my criticism in this video, you may be witnessing what you call my brutal honesty, which in some cases can be mixed with negativity. As I think it is for most people, I really respect Daco for giving a franchise so tainted with mismanaged merchandise an opportunity to have an actual earnest shot at some really good products. As I said in my review, I adore Hex's apparel and pins, even if I am a bit mixed on the direction and overall quality of the plushies. Daco has said a lot that he wants true honest feedback about Hex, so I figured that was the point in me packaging this video together. I don't want to just shill products to my audience without being at least mostly honest with my thoughts, as that makes my word when I say something is good have a lot more meaning. I want to see Hex improve. It's not often someone comes around that makes this kind of stuff and actually cares about improving it. You can absolutely say you care about improvement, but actions speak far louder than words. Having analyzed Hex's progress, I do see genuine improvement, even if in some areas it's more apparent than others. I just think it needs to be pushed a little more. I think Daco is very proud of having this big potential corner of the FNAF sandbox to do as he pleases with, and I don't blame him. I would be too. But I would hate to encourage him to build a structurally flawed sandcastle in that corner when I know he can make it something great. He's proven that he has and he can. It just requires those involved to meet him in the middle. He actually recently showed off the prototype for this game-accurate White Tiger plushie, and it's so cool. They're also apparently making a plush trap one like this, and I'm so excited for these. Like, this is what I've been wanting for years. There's a lot of potential to be respected by the wider fan base for Hex and its products, and also to make a lot of money when done right. I think it's really cool to see that Hex is exploring other IPs, and by raising the bottom line to make genuinely great products, you sell more, and that opens the doors to way more opportunities. So this is all done with peace and love in my heart. I want to see Hex do better because I believe it has the potential to. If Warren James is upset that I have not been 100% positive about everything I've been sent, you didn't pay me or make me sign anything to make this video, so I did what I wanted with it. But all I'm saying is I'm not immune to or above hush money. You do have my email.